healing and how Ivanti Neurons supports that. So welcome, Richard. Thank you for joining us today. Great to have you with us.
Good morning, all. I hope you can hear me clearly.
That's perfect. Absolutely perfect. Hopefully you've got your slides ready to share there, Richard.
Yeah, I am sharing. So if you're not seeing them, please let me know.
That's perfect. Yeah, they've just come through. So superb. Over to you. Thank you very much.
Okay, welcome everybody. Thank you for your time today. An unusual environment we're presenting in, but it's great that you can all turn up, and I hope we get the same experience at the end of the day. So today I'm going to be talking about Ivanti's approach to shift-left analytics with Ivanti Neurons. So for those of you that haven't seen me before, I'm Richard McNeil. I'm a senior pre-sales consultant, and I've been with Ivanti for about 4 or 5 years now. So some of you may have seen Ivanti Neurons in its previous form as Ivanti Cloud. Neurons is a set of tools that brings together information from the Ivanti portfolio. It's a simple to use but very powerful platform, and having this information in one place will make Neurons an indispensable tool for the service desk. Neurons is essentially broken down into 4 modules you can see on the screen right now. Firstly, we have Neurons for Intelligence, for Edge Intelligence. This provides analysts with live data to rapidly identify the cause of an incident. We also have Neurons for Discovery. This provides a comprehensive tool at pulling in data from numerous sources into a single view, which are exposed in the Ivanti Service Manager CMDB. We also have Neurons Workspace, which allows analysts to take actions on the endpoints in question in a safe but powerful way to resolve incidents. And finally, we have Neurons for Healing. And this takes endpoint service to the next level by using bots to detect and resolve issues before the user is even aware they have one. Let's look a little deeper at these components and see how they will change the way the service desk operates. Neurons for Edge Intelligence provides the analyst with a natural language processing to turn their questions into useful data within a matter of seconds. This gives them an operational awareness unmatched among other service management tools. Some of the key benefits of Edge Intelligence, such as immediate real-time awareness and intelligence without complexity, make this the ideal tool for first-line support, who may have a short time frame to engage and may not have the skills to run technical diagnostics. Giving them the power to run initial tests may well avoid the need to escalate to second-line support, and this shift-left approach is core to the Neurons toolset. So let's see this actually working in reality. Let's do a demo of a basic analyst using Service Manager and Ivanti Neurons. So we started Ivanti Service Manager as a service desk analyst looking at a ticket. This ticket, whose customer is Marcia Hendrick, is basically saying that her PC is running very slowly. Oh, sorry, that seems to have paused. Let me give you a second. Now, as an analyst at this point, I can take a closer look at Marcia and find out what equipment she might be running. So we can see here there are 3 devices linked to Marcia's account, and the Windows 10 PC is the one that she's having a problem with. If we open up that record, we're now looking at the CMDB, and we can see all the typical information you'd expect for this laptop: manufacturer, model, assigned user, service date, purchase date. We can also drill deeper and see what previous incidents she's had, what software she's running, and any other data fields that you might be collecting on this device. That information can be very useful, but what it doesn't give you is how that PC is running at this moment in time. There may be certain attributes that change second by second, minute by minute, and because this scan may be a few hours old, it doesn't necessarily give you the full picture. Now, the solution to that is Ivanti Neurons. Here we've given the analyst access to the Neurons. Neurons now takes us into the device dashboard, where it's made a live query of the device in question and has come back with information about key metrics using a RAG status to highlight any that have a particular problem. So immediately we're seeing the device, we're seeing where it's located, and we're also seeing areas such as the CPU hitting a warning level of 44%, memory sitting in the green, And reliability index is also a warning, but also we can see a load of other information should we need to understand it. But as an analyst, my eye is drawn to the CPU. I can see here that a single process is running at 44%. And if I open that up, I can see that across my estate, only one device is actually running it. So it's not a widespread problem. But if I open that and see the device is running this CPU process, and at this point, I know it's been running for 8 minutes, and I believe this is the one causing my PC to run slowly. But as an analyst, I also have the ability to stop that process. In doing so, we get a report saying that it has been successfully completed. If we go back to the device dashboard now and refresh, we see that the CPU now is running at 1%, and that should have solved the problem in question.
Now, what this has shown you is the ability for an analyst to run simple canned queries of the device in question. They get a RAG status alert to areas that they may be the root cause, and also provided with some simple but powerful actions to resolve the incident there and then. Now, nothing particularly technical was shown to them, and no actions that could have had a wider implication on the environment were made available to them. So the risks were mitigated, but allowing them to do what was required to fix the ticket. But now let's take things up a notch and see how neurons can be used by a more advanced analyst, perhaps with greater technical skill. Neurons for Workspace provides a complete view of the device to a great level of detail using real-time data. Designed to be used by more capable analysts as well as problem managers to resolve incidents and diagnose problems across the estate. Neurons Workspace takes the components of edge intelligence and widens the impact of the data gathered. Not only can we see data about a single machine, but we can also see across the entire estate. Built-in remote control and extensive built-in actions allow for unprecedented ability to make fixes in real time. If the issue is more widespread than a single device and perhaps occurring on devices outside the corporate network, Neurons Workspace can handle these scenarios. So let's see Neurons Workspace in action by first looking at the advanced analyst scenario.
Now let's take a little more complex scenario where the analyst needs to dig deeper into the device. Here we can see them accessing Ivanti neurons from within Service Manager. Neurons is querying the device in question and coming back with live data. So again, we're seeing information around the operating system, the CPU, processes, memory, storage, etc. And at the bottom here, we're seeing the physical location of the device. This can be very useful in the current times when people are often working away from the office. But if we want to go further than that, we can start looking at what we call edge intelligence. This is a series of pre-canned queries that can very quickly tell the analyst more about the device without them having to run complex scripts. So for instance, if we want to know if the firewall is turned on, we return a result that tells us it is. If we want to understand anything about our software, we can do so. For instance, what internet browsers are installed. We can see hardware information such as battery health, CPU usage, and free disk space. We can also run smart metrics to see what drive health is doing. And all this information is coming back in plain English, so we know very quickly if it's actually something that's okay or something that needs further investigation. We can look at things like log-on performance and networking information. The idea is that these common queries are made available to the analyst to run as soon as they need to. But from there we can go further. We also have remote control capabilities. We have the ability to reboot the device. Or we can run commands against the device to find information such as netstat or ipconfig, all of them pre-built within the Neurons interface so the analyst doesn't need to go outside to perform them. Now let's take a look.
And now let's take it a step further with the ability for problem managers to use neurons to diagnose the extent of a problem within the environment and take action to resolve it.
Problem managers can also make use of Ivanti neurons by tapping into the edge intelligence information. For example, we can come in here with a natural language query that is interpreted and results are quickly returned. And we can now see a global view of the physical location of all of our devices. And if we scroll in, we can see exactly where every single device is. This works even if they're not on the corporate network. If we're looking at an example where our UK machines are affected, we can filter the next query against those machines. We can also make use of a load of pre-canned queries that are in the system. So we can see here security, health, and inventory related queries that we just have to click on to find out more information. So very quickly here, we're seeing the quality of our batteries across our UK estate, and we can then drill down and find out which ones are likely to be failing in the near future, and potentially putting out a request to the manufacturer of the battery to replace them before they actually fail. Likewise, we can check other parameters. If we have issues with login performance across our networks, we can see how bad they really are. And here we're seeing that there's a few devices that have poor or terrible logins. We drill down into those, we can see each individual device, we can see the average duration of their login, and we can drill into individual sessions to really understand what's going on. Here we can see, for instance, a 4-minute login session, and we can see in great detail exactly which parts of that login took the time, perhaps modifying group policies in order to resolve that solution across our estate. If, for instance, we're also experiencing an erroneous process running on some of our devices, in this case, Notepad, we can run a query across the UK to say how many devices are actually running it. And we see approximately 50% of our estate are running this application. Drilling down into that, we can identify each of the devices and see where the process is running. And if we choose to, we can do a blanket stop process action to eliminate that process across the entire estate. We would then take further action to prevent it from actually being able to be restarted on any device.
So we've seen now how neurons can be used to respond to issues being raised by our users, but this is still requiring resources to register the issue, triage it, and then respond. Neurons for Healing enables this entire process to be fully automated for numerous types of issue in order to save time and money and increase productivity. Industry sources state that self-healing results in 63% fewer outages and can address up to 80% of issues before being reported by the user. This provides tremendous scope to change how the service desk operates and how the end user experience can be significantly enhanced. Neurons for Healing provides bot technology to constantly detect and diagnose issues within your wider estate and then auto-remediate. Configuration drift, performance issues, compliance and security issues all will often be detected and self-healed in a fully automated way. Neurons for Healing once again provides a very simple interface with lots of out-of-the-box content that can be extensively configured without coding. Integrations into third-party systems widens the scope beyond just Ivanti products and provides cover for devices wherever they are, whether they're outside your VPN, in the home office, or even connecting via a mobile phone connection. Let's look at a real-life example from one of our customers who needed to address the issue associated with laptops failing in their estate. They were working reactively to resolve this issue and spending a lot of money on replacement batteries that were out of warranty. So let's look at the scenario. A user's battery fails and they raise a ticket within the help desk. The help desk diagnose the issue, report it to the battery supplier for an order of a replacement, and the battery is delivered, the user receives it, and the ticket is closed. This process, although simple, takes time to resolve, uses resource, costs money, and ultimately reduces the user's productivity and their perception of IT. So what our customer did was they took Ivanti Neurons for self-healing and they changed how they worked this process. Ivanti Neurons would regularly check battery health across the entire laptop estate. When a battery performance started to decline, a ticket is automatically raised. This triggers a purchase request to the battery supplier. Often, as this was caught early, the battery was still in warranty and expensive replacement costs were avoided. The new battery was shipped to the end user before the end user even knew that the battery was failing. The ticket was closed and the problem was solved. Now, this massively reduced the time and resources consumed. Battery replacement costs are minimized, and again, the user experience is greatly enhanced. All of this done automatically using Neurons for self-healing. Let's see a live demo of this in action.
When it comes to automating self-heal and self-repair on an endpoint, Ivanti Neurons comes with a whole load of actions and queries that allow you to set up very quickly automated checks and repairs as they happen. For example, if we go into our user productivity section, we'll see here that we have a self-healing disk space neuron. What this neuron will do is we'll check the free disk space on our devices. In this case, any device that has less than 10% free disk space on drive C. Any positive results will come back and will be actioned with a clean disk operation to clean files that are older than 90 days. The free disk check is run again, and any devices with less than 20% of disk space will again become part of the results. Any with between 6 and 20% will have a message displayed to the user recommending that they try and free up their disk space by removing large files. Any that have results less than 5% will actually receive, will automatically generate an ISM ticket to the service desk telling them that there's a critical low space on a laptop and an action needs to be taken. This type of neuron can be run on a schedule. Running it once a week will constantly remind your users to clear up this space when they need it, and raising tickets whenever it cannot be achieved automatically. And the beauty of this is creating these neurons is very straightforward. If I wanted to create a new user productivity neuron, I can either send it as a one-off or as a scheduled event. But in doing so, all I have to do is choose the query. In this case, let's say battery health. Configure that query. I want to look for the batteries that have poor or terrible performance and decide what action I want to take as a result of that. It could be very simply a case of creating an ISM ticket, or it could be sending an email. In this case, the ISM ticket, we will specify what happens in that ticket and the content, and in the email, we specify who it goes to and what the subject is. It's really that simple. We then run this battery health check once a week across our estate, and we'll find that anyone that has a poor battery immediately raises a ticket and sends an email to the battery manufacturer asking for a replacement. In that way, we don't have to wait for a battery to fail before we go through the process of ordering and delivering a new battery to our users. It's this kind of action that can save massive amount of time on the service desk, but also reduce wasted user productivity time through outages of the device.
So today we've seen 3 of the 4 Ivanti Neurons capabilities that enhance the service desk operations, allowing analysts to achieve higher first call resolution, reducing the number of calls being escalated, and ultimately providing a self-heal capability for numerous incident types to greatly reduce the burden on support staff, at the same time increasing the productivity of users wherever they may be located. Now, I hope this proved useful to you, and I thank you for your time. One thing I'd like to do, actually, let me just jump out of there. A couple of slides I didn't mean to hide. Apologies for this. Somehow they got hidden. Okay, so I'd also like to show for users of Service Manager that don't have Ivanti Neurons, we do actually have inbuilt self-healing capabilities already. You may not have been aware of this. So let me show you how they look. So first of all, this is analytic metrics within Ivanti Service Manager and how we can do self-heal using automated processes.
We also have the ability to use analytic metrics within Ivanti Service Manager to provide automated responses to problems. The chart in the bottom left corner of this dashboard is showing all the different types of problems that have occurred in our estate over the last 7 days. And the RAG status shows us the ones that have occurred most frequently. The ones in red are the ones of interest here, because we can automatically initiate a response should any particular category of problem occur more than an allocated number of times. Here, when we configure this dashboard widget, we can set specific action triggers to say if a certain type of problem occurs a certain number of times in that week, to initiate an automated workflow. That workflow could be as simple as sending an email notification to an appropriate analyst, but it could also be the ability to initiate an entire process of automating the configuration of a VM server or any other action that might be required based upon the type of failure that has occurred. This allows us to very quickly make sure the appropriate people are notified and the appropriate actions are taken automatically whenever a certain number of problems are identified.
So what does this all mean to the industry, to the wider industry? Well, announced only last week, Ivanti has now moved into the leaders quadrant of the Gartner Magic Quadrant. And much of this is to do with our strategy to automate the service desk in the way you have seen today. We're very excited about this news, and we feel we're now put in a very strong position in the industry alongside BMC and ServiceNow. On top of this, it was announced this week that Ivanti Service Manager has been Pink verified across 11 ITIL version 4 processes. 11 processes shown here met 100% of their ITIL 4 general core and integration requirements. Again, very exciting news, and we're very proud to be in a leading position in terms of this verification. So I hope this has been proved useful to you today, and I thank you for your time. If you have any questions, I'll be around for the next few minutes, and I'll also be taking part in the panel Q&A discussion following immediately after this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Richard. Yeah, again, very thought-provoking actually when you see all that, the capability in that. Again, the no code, a lot of emphasis on that as well, obviously, is the drag and drop stuff, which is great. And the approach to shift left analytics, which is interesting, obviously, into then more intelligent platforms. We've got a couple of questions, and we've got some time actually, so maybe we can get a few questions in actually. We've got one again from Venkatraj. How does Neurons differ from Ivanti Service Manager and Ivanti Service Desk?
Okay, that's a fair question. So Ivanti Service Manager and Service Desk rely upon manually generated data, so people calling in, raising tickets, processing those tickets, maybe and doing that very much in a manual way. It may be using third-party tools to be resolving those issues or diagnosing and triaging those issues. What Neurons does is it helps automatically generate tickets. It also allows the analysts to query in live, real data up to the second on any device that is relevant to that particular investigation, rather than relying on and potentially out-of-date CMDB data. And then it can also provide that automated self-healing, all within the single platform.
Thank you. That's great. And you know, that has been an interesting there's been a lot of this today. It's very interesting, actually, as a guy who's, you know, a service desk guy, to think about what it really means to the industry and what it means for service desks as well. So I've got a couple of questions. I mean, the first one relates to the changing relationship, I think, the diagnosis relationship at frontline. So instead of going through and using your tacit knowledge or information or your know-how or knowledge, the tool is giving a deeper dive into information, so you get directly to a problem, so you can fix it quicker, which is really interesting. I like the NetStat stuff. I like the IP config stuff as well. That's really cool. So I'm assuming that information could be added to a ticket very simply. It's not like a copy and paste. I'm assuming that will be self-generated in an instance if needs be.
Yeah, there are certain pre-built actions in the tool that could say, copy this information we've gathered from Neurons and place it into the ticket that we're dealing with. So that can be done in a single click, or it can be done automatically if you configure it as such.
Yeah, cool. And again, when we look at that, you mentioned lightweight IoT sensors. It'd be good to know what type of sensors they are and where do they live. And who puts the sensors there? How does that work? Is that your infrastructure team? Obviously now, as we've got slightly different relationship with infrastructure, and we look at cloud and stuff like that. What are they? How do they work, and where do they sit?
Yeah, it's a fair question. What we didn't really cover today, because it was kind of out of scope, was the discovery for Neurons. Okay, and that is the other element of the tool, which will query and scan your networks and find any IP related device that's out there. Now, those devices we will query. Where appropriate and where we have credentials, we will place an agent on top of them. If we can't place an agent, we'll do an agentless scan. So we will find every device with an IP address that comes onto your network and pull that in. At that point, depending upon what the device is and whether we can get an agent on it, will then depend upon what we'll then determine what we can actually do to that endpoint. Now, of course, our primary focus at the start is servers, laptops, desktop, printers, switches, routers, infrastructure. But we're also going out there to get healthcare equipment. We're talking to any device that it could be a fridge at the end of the day that can communicate with us. If that device is reachable, we'll talk to it and we'll pull the relevant information from it.
That's really interesting, actually, because again, IoT has been, a term used for a long time now. To see that being incorporated in that sort of form is really interesting to see. And also, maybe my last question before we close, the time and effort to configure all that we've seen here, right? So you've shown what a typical example maybe of a more mature use of Neurons. How long would you think on average it take to configure all that? Maybe the self-healing stuff as well. How long would it take to get up and running? It's something mature.
Yeah. Now, the astonishing thing about Neurons is the time to delivery is extremely short. It's a cloud-based system, as you probably saw. It has a lot of out-of-the-box content like actions and queries. So within minutes of getting the system engaged into your environment, which means basically installing a gateway device, an agent into one device in your network, within minutes you'll start getting discovery data back. And as soon as you have that hook into a device, you can start running these Neurons, running these queries against it. In best case, it's literally minutes to start getting something back, and hours or maybe a few days before you start getting sort of near 100% of your equipment. It's astonishingly fast. There's very little configuration and setup required. And our customers that have used it have been amazed at how rapidly that it can be deployed. So you're not looking at significant effort. It's designed to be easy and quick out of the box.
Good. And I think my last point there, if you look at the changing relationship between diagnosis and the augmentation of the agent and the service desk, how it changes over the next few years in relation to this new technology becoming more accessible, right, to buy. Who do you think would own the ability to configure all that? As we've seen, is that going to be taken away by some second, third line sort of team hidden behind a door and who never talks to the service desk? Or is this designed for the service desk to sort of reskill a little bit and to be the fundamentally the point of rationale to configure all this stuff based on what the organization needs as outcomes?
Yeah, it's a fair question, and I think different companies are going to have different answers to that question. But the idea is it's designed that even the frontline support desk can have some level of ownership of this. the second line may have their say in how much the first line can do, and that's fair enough, but they can expose features to first line, such as the pre-canned queries on battery health, on net stat, as you saw, and allow them to run them risk-free. We're not giving them first line's ability to run PowerShell scripts or to do anything dangerous. We're just giving them the ability to get simple queries out there with plain English responses, so that they can make some decisions and not have to rely on second line support to do it, which obviously escalates costs and extends time.
Yeah, absolutely. You're absolutely right. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think we might discuss this a little bit further now in the next session. I think my nirvana is a flattening of that relationship. My nirvana is a full stack service desk. My nirvana is the service desk being the service, not being a function or a practice, or as seen as we can't give them these tools, they're going to break everything. That's my nirvana.
Fantastic vision.
Good. Right. We're going to close on that one. Thank you very much indeed. We're going to move into our panel discussion shortly, everybody. So again, just bear with us as we sort of swap things around a little bit. We're going to be back, I think, let me just double check, at 1:30 with that discussion panel, so not too far. So if you could just bear with us and again refresh your browsers, and we'll be speaking to our panel very shortly. Thank you.